there are certain humans who have embodied, who have this extraterrestrial lineage, that they came here as nature specialists because they understand plant nature, animal nature, water nature, all of these different, even rock nature. And so they are here. A lot of times it's the people who feel like, what the hell is going on here? I don't think I belong here. They have this alien lineage that, and I know that in some circles that's not the correct terminology to use, but this is a good thing, and they're able to then be a conduit to share this information. And so, it's so much bigger, it's so much more multifaceted than even the first glance, and yet it all comes together because it's all little aspects of the whole.
Now, I got to ask you a question before you drop off here, Kevin. I this is set up. I have to ask this, or I won't be able to sleep tonight. I won't. It'll be both you guys' fault. Okay, Bigfoot out in the forest. Mm-hmm. Have you ever felt anything from the trees about it?
I have asked because I have been very, interested in that. Like so many other listeners, like something's going on. There's stuff that can't be refuted. What's going on? And the way that the way that the trees have explained it to me is there's actually several different kind of species, whether, again, it's the Sasquatch, whether it is the dragon, whether it is the unicorn, that have somehow in their makeup this ability to go interdimensional. Because when stuff got real here on the earth and we started, dragon hunting, Sasquatch hunting, unicorn hunting, they were able to go into this interdimensional piece, and the trees see all of that. In fact, not only those, but they see the humans that move and almost bleed through the timelines. Folks have been out in the woods, and they'll see folks from another time period out there as well. And there's something about the sacred geometry of trees that allows us, and if we can remember as humans, I don't remember yet, but I'm sure hoping to be able to work with that sacred geometry in a way that we could teleport, that we could time travel, that we could do some of these things, create these aspects using this natural intelligence to do these superhuman abilities. But we've forgotten. We're in a deep amnesia, and connecting with the trees, connecting with the plants, connecting in these ways is going to help us remember. And that includes the extraterrestrials. That includes the Sasquatch.
Now, I'm wondering if they're able to shape a shift too. Even like, for example, right? If there is a Bigfoot or anything like that, and you come upon them, maybe they can even shift themselves to a tree or something where you could walk right past them and not even realize it.
Absolutely. Yeah, shape-shifting is a huge piece that we don't understand, and this ability to make ourselves invisible, this cloak, where you would just not even see. They're like a chameleon up against it, and we're so full of ourselves that because we can't do it, we assume nobody else can do it.
Yeah. I think Anne-Marie is very, very correct, and Native, and like I said, from a folklorist standpoint, and this backs up some of the experiences that I've had out in the woods too, Gary. But what I will say is that these two pieces in a lot of ways come together, and so we have a lot of people who say Bigfoot is flat, and we have some people who say Bigfoot is spirit. Where in the Native American lore, and in European lore too, you have elements of both in two creatures. In other words, in Washington State, you've got Bigfoot and you've got stick Indians, who one are sort of tree-like beings who can disappear, and one are Bigfoot, And then in Europe, you've got the Green Man, which is the mystical tree being, and then you've got the Wood Wasp, which is the sort of more physical aspect of it. So I think in a lot of ways they're very close to each other, but not necessarily the same thing. And I think this is where a lot of people in the Bigfoot world get mad at each other over one of the other two bits. where they're not really necessarily realizing, they're not necessarily looking for the same thing whenever they're out in the woods experiencing different things.
Well, I'll say this, Kevin. Like I've said it before, if you're out really looking hard, okay, and you're planting cameras and you're doing all this stuff, you're not going to find it. Like in my situation, Anna Marie, I back in 2002, a friend of mine who just got done doing his internship, a medical doctor, we decided we wanted to, go out and take pictures of old ghost towns. And we researched this thing on the Canadian Rockies. It was an internment camp that was held Japanese prisoners during World War II, out in the middle of nowhere, So we went out there with our cameras, hiked in where it was. We ran into a Bigfoot accidentally. And, I'm not going into the story because I've said it so many times. But my thing is, if you're out looking for one, you're not going to really find it. And a lot of people go out on these, trails, but everybody else has done, a dozen times a day or more. The odds of finding one are very, very slim. It's a situation where you just like, you walk out somewhere and it didn't expect to see you, and there it is. Yeah. And that's just my feeling, because that's the only one I ever seen. That's the only one I ever want to see.
Yeah. Well, I have a theory. Yeah. Sorry, Anne-Marie, I don't want to cut you off, but I just have a theory that they find you. You don't find them. In a way, they let you see them at certain in certain cases. But I believe Anne-Marie is correct, and her interpretation of how she explained it after dealing with Sasquatch people for a long, long time, I think she nailed it on the head. I mean, to be honest with you, I think that, there's an old Indian saying where you count the amount of trees when you're going out, and, whenever you come back, there'll be one less. In other words, I think that they can fool your mind into thinking that they're something else other than what they are. So, I don't know if that's true. I have stories. I don't have any, actual scientific proof to say that, but,
well, I don't either. I saw one. I mean, I don't have no proof. I don't have a dead Bigfoot to bring back. I don't even have hair. All I cared about was getting out of there. But you know what? Again, too, you're out in nature. You're around all these beautiful trees, and maybe they can feel your feelings too. So, if you're out there and I hate to say it with any group, I'm not saying the Bigfooters or the UFO or people or whatever. If somebody is a lot of people look at the paranormal as a social gathering. Mm-hmm. Simply, I found that after doing the show for a year, and when I used to do it, back years ago, I find so many people, it's nothing more than a social media. They go out, ghost hunting. Well, you know what? It wasn't so much going out the ghost hunting. It's just something to do, a hobby. Those type of people, I don't think are going to ever find anything. Just the way they think in their head, what they're doing. And, if nature is all, tied into each other, then they know what you're thinking. So why are you going to find anything? You're not going to find a ghost. You're not going to find a Bigfoot. And most likely you're not going to find a UFO or an alien.
I think you're spot on with that. Absolutely. And our intention is so important. And it's really funny. I'm trained to pay attention to the signs and the symbols. I have a three-year-old Great Dane, and he's outside howling at the coyotes. And coyotes in the Native American tradition are about the trickster, the one who plays the tricks. And this is everything that we're talking about. And like you said, when you go out, I want to find this, that's very ego-driven versus us opening up and saying, I want to find truth. I want to understand. And that's why we come upon it on accident instead of that human control, facade of I'm going to do this. There's so many times that I've gone out to the forest saying, this is my end result, I'm going to do this. And it never works. It only never works. And they're trying to help us understand, open up to more possibilities. And again, Kevin's right on. It's not this or that. There's something else in between. All of us have our best interpretation of what we're being given, and we're still off just a little bit because we don't have the full understanding yet. We're limited in this dimension, and yet the more we can connect in with all of the, whatever it is that resonates with you, it allows you to open up. And if we can stay in that beginner's mind, we can actually learn something here.
Well, that's why I mentioned at the beginning. I mentioned if a person is an evil person, you know, it you know, like, again, I'm not saying a murderer, but somebody who is just a bad person in general, you know, I think their odds are even less of, you know, accomplishing anything. Going out in nature, they're not even going to feel anything like I feel like when I was telling you, when I'm depressed or somebody died or what have you, I go out and I sit next to my fish pond and I look at my trees, you know, and then I look at the sky and I feel everything is all connected. Everything is connected.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you're right, Gary. I think that nature does have a redemptive quality, though. I really do think that, you know, from the standpoint of good and bad and everything like that. It seems to me like Anne-Marie's got it. I mean, I'm on the show now. I've known her for 20 minutes, and now I think that I'm her best. But anyway, no. But I can tell. You know, it seems like you know, if you go out in nature and you experience nature, then nature will teach you a lot about yourself. I think what's interesting about that is that you do get out in the woods alone, and that does make you really contemplate your life and your position in life. And I think in that case, when you get away from all the different stimuli around you and you can get out there, and if you ever watch those shows about people who spend all the time out in the woods by themselves, you know, after about a week, they start to break down because, you know, they start to realize what's important to them, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's important. And I also, what I really like about what Anne-Marie was talking about is the trickster element. And I think that from a standpoint of learning about yourself, you do have to really consider the trickster element that will lead you down a little bit of a garden path, and to see whether you'll push back against it, you know, to sort of learn. So I think it's fascinating. And like I said, I don't want to take up all your time because I know that you've only got like 15 minutes left. So it's been a pleasure, Anne-Marie, and I'll talk to you off air soon, and maybe we'll get you on our show.
That would be so wonderful. And it's funny because my sweetheart always says to me, "No, if I'm acting not right," he's like, "How long has it been since you've been out to the trees?" Or he'll say this, you know, he's very strategic because he's very smart. Also, he wants to stay happily in a relationship, so he'll say things like, "When was the last time you talked to the trees?" And then I know, I must be kind of twitchy, so I need to get out there because I'm believing in something that's not true. You know, I'm human. That's my makeup, but I'm also nature. And when I'm removed from nature, I get twitchy.
I gotta say something, guys. You know what? Going back about 8 years ago, okay, I came in a situation where I needed money. And all of a sudden a guy appears, you know, and because I have almost 2 acres of cedar trees, that's worth a lot of money. Yeah. You know, it's not like pine trees. And the guy offered me a certain amount of money, but and he was going to chop all the trees down. And I really thought about it. And no lie, while I was thinking about it, I had the very worst luck on everything during that time frame. I mean, nothing was going right. Me and my wife, for no reason at all, started fighting. Not about because of the money or chopping the trees down, because she didn't care one way or another. But then all of a sudden, I had this guilt complex. You know, I started thinking, "Oh, gee, we're the only one around here left with, you know, that amount of trees." And then I started thinking, okay, well, what are the squirrels going to do? What are the raccoons going to do? What are the possums going to do? And we got a little bit of deer here, too. And I started thinking, well, gee, I log it off. What's going to happen to them? And then I really started getting this guilt complex. And, you know, I hate to say it. I would sit next to the fish pond. I'd look at the trees, and I felt really guilty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand, Gary. I think that this is one of those things where, you know, and this is a thing where you do realize that if you spend a lot of time out in the woods, and I've spent months and months and months by myself out in the woods, just doing jobs and things like that for different people. And these things that they do, you do get the Grizzly Adams effect. You know what I mean? That's what I call it, where